Okay, well, good evening to everyone in Australia. It's evening. Good morning in America. I'm not sure if anyone in America will be watching. It's so early in the morning over there. And I always blabber on about nothing for a couple of minutes because the notifications go out and people will get that and get on the live stream here. But we'll be archiving this anyway so that people can see it later on, particularly in America when they wake up. But we're here at Mueller Community Church. This is in the Redcliffe area, the Redcliffe Peninsula. It's north of Brisbane in Queensland, Australia. A beautiful auditorium in here that seats about 1,500 people. We begin our Answers in Genesis conference. Well, actually, it's under the auspices of Re-Engage. It's an organisation here in Australia that are running these special conferences, and the website is reengage.org.au. But here's our setup of our resources that are here that you can see on the tables. And we now have an Answers in Genesis bookstore here in Australia. And I want you to meet a couple of very special people in the history of Answers in Genesis. This is a unique opportunity actually for me because I want you to first of all meet Steve. Steve, you are not a scientist.
Absolutely not.
You can tell that by the way you're dressed.
Thanks very much, Ken.
You dress more like an artist.
Well, that's because I am an artist.
Oh, okay. And you got sort of hair like an artist.
Well, I try to fit the image, you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want you to do. But you have a unique position in the history of Answers in Genesis because you designed a particular diagram that has become famous associated with Answers in Genesis, and that diagram was what we call
the castle diagram.
The castle diagram. You did the original one, didn't you?
That's right. You and I worked on it together, I remember, through various drafts. And we finally come up with the one we wanted.
To the Mueller Performing Arts Centre.
Oh, you can hear the announcement there.
We would like to remind all patrons
That's fine, they can still hear us.
Yeah.
So you did the original castle diagram.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things that you had the first concept and then we worked through a way to try to get that concept onto paper.
Yeah, the concept was, dealing with the fact it's a foundational battle and that the secular humanists are aiming right at the foundation.
That's right.
Right at God's Word, whereas Christians tend to be aiming at the symptoms. And of course we have a lot of symptoms today, like gay marriage and abortion, and so it goes on.
And I think the same thing has continued. The message is just as true today as it was back when we first did it.
But I hate to tell you this, we took that diagram and we've refined it over the years.
I've noticed, and it looks much improved.
And we've upgraded it, we added some colour to it.
You've brought it into the 21st century.
Brought it into the 21st century, and we use it in various of our talks. But a lot of people tell me it's when they see the castle diagram, they suddenly get it, that, this ministry is not just about creation, evolution, the age of the earth. We're on about the fact there's a battle between two religions, God's Word and man's Word.
Yeah.
And that's what the castle diagram really represented. And that's what we're saying back in, well, how long ago was that? Because I went full-time in 1979.
Well, it must have been, but I worked it out before. It was something like 35 to 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well, we've been in America now for 30 years, my wife and I. And, in fact, we'll be going on 31 years soon.
Wow.
And so it would have been, 35 to 40 years ago. Because I've been involved in this ministry for about 40 years.
And the thing that just really strikes me is I was looking at it just the other day and noticing just how powerful that basic fundamental concept is, because, as I said, it's just as true today as it was back then. And in fact, the same problems that existed then are now, in fact, even more so.
Even more so. And some people have even said it was a very, in a sense, if you know what I mean, put in quotes, prophetic sort of message. Because they were saying, here's the battle and here's what's going to happen. If we don't stand on the authority of God's Word, if the church doesn't, if the church compromises God's Word, it'll increasingly have less impact on the culture, and we'll see all of these symptoms of moral relativism permeating the culture, and we see all that.
Well, the very things that you were predicting would happen as the culture moves further away from God are exactly what we are saying.
And that's what I say to people. Look, there's a lot of Christians in America saying, why are things going the way they are in our Western world, and people in Australia? And I said, look, it's very simple. If you don't have a foundation in the absolute authority of God's Word, there's one other foundation, man's Word, and then anything goes.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's happening in Australia. I mean, a lot of Christians are so disappointed with what's happening in Australia with the same-sex marriage vote, and they're going to be legalising that. But there's already moves afoot to restrict the free exercise of Christianity.
Well, I think we're seeing the same thing happen all over the world, aren't we?
We are.
It's just like a a thing that's a parasite and a cancer that's going through everybody.
It is. And,
through the whole of culture.
and you know what? I talked about that really in my book, The Lie. And we have another special guest here tonight. She is very shy. She does not want to appear on camera, but she's going to, because I'm going to put her on the spot. Carol, come over here a moment.
Hi, Carol.
And you don't have to say a lot, okay? But actually, Carol is actually looking after the ministry here in Australia, and her husband David are here and brought in all the books and all the rest of it. But Carol has a unique position in the history of Answers in Genesis. You typed something special for me. What was it?
I typed The Lie.
You're the one that typed the original manuscript of The Lie,
Yes.
and it has been sold hundreds and hundreds of thousands. I think it's over 1 million sold all around the world. I mean, it's been Answers in Genesis bestseller, and it's really influenced a lot of lives. And I did upgrade it a little and modify. You know what was interesting? A few years ago, we put out the new edition. Let me see if I can find it. Here we are. This one here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And
welcome
this
to the
was the
New Performing
25th
Arts
anniversary
Centre.
edition. You know, a lot of books don't last longer than just a few years. And after 25 years, this was still, it's really, other than the Bible, that's what I tell people, other than the Bible, it's the textbook of our ministry. And 25 years after it was first published, you typed it actually in 1986, and it was first published in 1987. And then 25 years after it was published, I revised it and expanded it. But here's the interesting thing. When I was going to do that, I thought, I better reread this and see what I said. And as I was rereading, going through, and I was saying, well, I'm using that argument today, and I'm using that argument today. And I was getting through it, and I was saying, wait a minute, I'm using all the same arguments. I don't have to revise those arguments.
No.
Why is that? And that's because the Bible stays the same.
That's right.
When you stand on God's word, it stays the same. But I did, because of the way the culture has changed, and because the message has matured, and you gain a lot of experience and knowledge and that, so I did add that in here and revise it somewhat. But it's still the basic book that was typed back in 1986, because we were standing on the authority of God's word and talking about the battle. It's really the castle diagram explained in a book. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I think that's true to say, because it's the message that was through that. Is
Right.
what you were presenting.
That was the message
then and now.
I was bringing. So it's really interesting. I see you're wearing an outdated logo. That's one of our original logos. Look at that. Answers in Genesis logos. That goes back millions and millions of years, in fact. But we're starting tonight now. I'm going to let people into a little secret here. We're going to try. We have some technical problems we have to overcome, and we have our team working on it, but we're going to try to see if we can live stream the talks tonight. And we might try to live stream some of them tomorrow as well. So you just have to wait for the notification if that happens, and you'll be able to see. Because I'm going to talk on, the first talk I'm doing tonight is Genesis and the State of the Culture. Then the second talk is Dr. Andrew Snelling, dealing with the flood. So Andrew is over here, our geologist. And, I'm going to go online here. I'm going to ask our videographer. We're getting some comments there. And
people from California, Sydney, people out in the car park waiting.
oh, there's people out in the car park waiting to get in because we haven't opened the doors yet. Oh, okay. For the people out in the car park, we are going to open the doors here at some stage. And we're just getting everything set up. We're actually going to be videoing the entire conference so that we can make it available later on. Carol, how come it says you're on here? Oh, it must be your husband. He's using your iPhone, and he's actually on here. I see that. So someone from Townsville, welcome back to Oz. Someone from Texas, they're wide awake at 2 a.m. in the morning. You need something to help you sleep. Don't watch our. If we live stream these, don't watch them because they're going to keep you awake. They won't put you to sleep. Someone from Melbourne on here as well. And listening from California. So there we are. But it was really great to catch up with you too.
Thanks, Ken.
It's been a long time since we've sort of been in the same place together, the three of us.
Yeah.
And there's actually another, she's sitting over there, out of the way. This is Brenda, come over here just for a minute. So Brenda, you first came to work at Answers in Genesis how many years ago?
1984.
1984.
Yeah.
We came to America in 1987.
Yes.
But you guys go way back. In fact, the three of you really
We were the original team.
The original team. That
We
is-
were on the creation bus waving you off at the airport.
boy, that goes back a long way.
Long way.
Isn't that phenomenal? And to be able to all catch up again
It's great.
at this conference here, that's really a unique opportunity. And so, Brenda,
The message hasn't changed.
the message, say that again.
The message hasn't changed.
It hasn't, because when you stand on God's word, you know what's happened in a lot of churches? Their message has changed because they respond to the culture,
Yeah.
like in regard to gay marriage and so on. And so they change, but God's word hasn't changed, and our message hasn't changed. And that's, we have a number of our supporters in America who tell us that's what they love about our ministry, that we stand on the authority of God's word and we don't change the message. The message matures and so on, but we don't change the message.
For sure.
So those people that are sitting out in the parking lot, by the way, I know you'll be able to come in here soon. Someone's watching from Washington State, would you believe that? Some of these people can't sleep. They got problems over there. So anyway, it's great to catch up with you, Brenda.
Thanks, Ken.
And with Steve, and with Carol. She's gone, run away, working somewhere. And my brother David over here, who has really been a great help to getting this ministry launched here in Australia and getting all the books over here. And he's actually at his construction office, he has the bookstore for Australia. And so people can go there during business hours and purchase the materials. So you can come in here a little bit so people can see you. And you know Steve too, you go way back with Steve. So anyway, well, it's that's been good. So just to keep in mind, we may be able to live stream tonight. It's not the same as being here, of course. We're going to try. We've got issues in regard to phone signals and other things, and we're working on resolving some of those, but we're going to try that. But someone from Gladstone, my sister got on here. Do you know our sister got on here? Look at that, she's watching right now. And hi from Mum and I, Sunnybank Hospital. Our mother she turns 90 in February. And she's had a tough day, she has. But Rosemary must be there with her. My sister must be there with her. So they're from Sunnybank Hospital. And someone from Alabama. Oh, they have a problem sleeping there in Alabama. Isn't it great to catch up with Steve, who did the original Castle diagram, Carol, who typed the original manuscript of the lie, Brenda, the three of them that were the original team at our ministry here, and then with myself, and this is like a reunion.
It is, because this is the message that's for today.
It is. Say that again, Steve.
This is the message that's needed for today.
See, even an artist knows this and understands
Even an
it.
artist, a flaky artist.
Well, everyone back at AIG they know what I say about artists.
Yeah.
So they're very talented people.
Yeah.
They
Hi,
are.
Dan.
And they're very talented people. Oh, you're talking about Dan Lether.
Yeah.
And even our videographer, she works in the graphic arts department.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Steve, it's just, isn't it fascinating to know a diagram you did 35 to 40 years ago is still just a powerful diagram.
It's really humbling, and it's such a blessing to have been able to contribute just a little bit
and
to
literally,
the kingdom of
literally
God.
millions of people, millions, have seen that diagram. And I'm hoping I get time to use it tonight in my talk too.
That's a real blessing.
So that'll be
Thanks,
real good.
Ken.
So with that, we're going to end off here at Mueller and Mueller Community Church, Mueller College here. They're beautiful, beautiful auditorium, and we're going to try to live stream the talks tonight. So keep watch.